بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين وبعد. It goes without saying that if we begin counting our blessings, we will exhaust ourselves. وَإِن تَعُدُّوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ لَا تُحْصُوهَا. If we try to count Allah's blessings on us, we will exhaust ourselves. If I say, Allah has blessed me with sight, Allah has blessed me with the ability to taste, a family, health, a job, ability to walk, iman, the list goes on and on and on. In the list of blessings that Allah has given us, some of these blessings are known to us, and some of these blessings we often overlook and forget. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells us that from the many blessings that Allah has blessed us with, there are two blessings in particular that we always forget about. نِعْمَتَانِ مَغْبُونٌ فِيهِمَا كَثِيرٌ مِّنَ النَّاسِ الصِّحَّةُ وَالْفَرَاغُ. نِعْمَتَانِ مَغْبُونٌ فِيهِمَا كَثِيرٌ مِّنَ النَّاسِ. There are two blessings, there are two ni'mas that we often forget more frequently than other blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What are these two blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? He says, الصِّحَّةُ وَالْفَرَاغُ. الصِّحَّةُ وَالْفَرَاغُ. What is الصِّحَّةُ وَالْفَرَاغُ? Good health and free time. These are blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Honestly, we may overlook and may not realize they're from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and until you don't have it anymore, you won't really appreciate them. You know, over the last, I would say like week or 2 weeks, there's been this virus or this cough that's been making the rounds, and everybody's been very sick. And subhanAllah, I was with a relative of mine, and we were sitting down, and I gave him a glass of water to drink, and it was about lukewarm water. It wasn't even that cold. He took a sip and he's like, "Oh man, don't give it to me, it's too cold." And I said, "SubhanAllah, it's just like such lukewarm water." He's like, "Yeah, I want to actually drink ice cold water, but because of my cough, I'm scared it's going to get worse and worse again." And it was at that point he realized that, something as basic as drinking water, you're eating food and you just drink water, it's cold, you don't even realize it. The moment you have a small cough, you forget about how much of a blessing it is. You're in your room, subhanAllah, people who have fevers or colds in the summer, they really realize this. In Texas, it's like 110 degrees, it's so hot. If you turn on the AC, problem is you're taking in cold air and you get more sick. You turn off the AC, it's so hot you can't even sit in the room. And you realize, subhanAllah, what an amazing blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala it is that I'm able to even enjoy an AC. I'm able to enjoy the fan. And we take this for granted, subhanAllah. Especially today, in the past, they talk about mortality rates, infancy mortality rates. People would get sick and they wouldn't know what to do. Nowadays, I have a headache, I just take Tylenol, I take Advil, and subhanAllah, after like 2-3 hours, it calms it down. I have a very serious issue, I go to a doctor, they schedule a surgery, and they figure out what happens. I have an internal problem, they do an endoscopy, they do a colonoscopy, and I feel better after a particular diagnosis. Allah has blessed us with so many things that we don't even do shukr for it. That's one problem. The second problem is we don't even realize that these are blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In Arabic, they say the jahil. Jahil is the person who is ignorant. The jahil, there are 3 levels. One is jahl basit, the simple ignorant person. The person, he's ignorant, but his ignorance is basit. It's very low level. What does that mean? That means I am ignorant, but that is, Allah gave me a blessing, I don't know about the blessing. The second level is called jahl murakkab, compounded ignorance. I am a jahil, but I'm also jahil that I'm a jahil. Meaning, Allah has given me a blessing that I don't know about, but I also don't know that I don't know about Allah's blessing. Then the third is, they say jahil muka'ab, jahl to the third power. Jahl to the second power to the third power. Jahl, ignorance to the third power. What is that? It's somebody who doesn't know Allah's blessing. He doesn't know that he doesn't know Allah's blessing. And on top of that, he complains that Allah hasn't given him any blessings either. So there are 3 levels of jahala in this person's life. And oftentimes we find ourselves over here. I get a paper cut and I'm complaining, Ya Allah, what is happening over here? And there are people whose homes are being razed to the ground in Gaza. There are people who are dying and I'm complaining. Subhanallah, one is not to know, one is not to know that you don't know, and one is on top of that, you're complaining to Allah that, Ya Allah, you haven't given me anything. It's so important. One of the lowest hanging fruits of Allah's blessings is shukr. Shukr, being grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If Allah blesses me with something, the bare minimum is acknowledging that this is a blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the first thing is sihha. The first thing is sihha. The other day, I slightly hurt my back. So I went to a program and I sat for a little bit and I had to leave right away because sitting down on the ground was a little difficult. After a while, the person who was organizing the program, he saw me leaving. He's like, Sheikh, where are you going? We want you to sit for a program. I said, listen, my back is hurting a little bit. He said, listen, your back is hurting. Wait till you see what happens to our back. And then he's like, if your back is hurting, he's like, we'll get you a chair and you can sit on a chair. I said, man, if I sit on a chair, I'm going to feel like I'm 60 years old. It's fine, inshallah. I'll just log in through YouTube and I'll listen to the bayan. But I thought at that point, subhanAllah, what a small blessing. So while my back was hurting a little bit, it wasn't too serious, it was such a small incident. I was going to pick up my socks. I went down to pick up my socks and I pulled my back muscle. And I said, subhanAllah, usually I can put on my socks, you can pick up weights, I'm putting on my socks and I pull my back muscle and now I'm sitting down because I can't move around. As-sihha. Allah has given us such amazing blessings, subhanAllah. Wallahi, we don't understand until we don't have it anymore. But let's appreciate it before we don't have it anymore. The second, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says, al-faragh, free time. A lot of free time. What does free time mean? Nowadays, everybody says they're busy. I'm busy. Oh, you get an email, I'm going to respond to it tomorrow. I'm too busy. I get a phone call, I'm too busy. It's salah time, I'm too busy. One of the biggest evidences that we are not busy is Ramadan. We spend so much time just eating. So much time eating. There's 2 people involved in eating. One is the person who cooks the food, and the other person is the one who eats the food. One is worse than the other. The one who has to cook the food spends 5 hours a day. That's a different issue. The one who eats the food has their own problem. I come inside of my house, I know I'm going to eat lunch. So now, I'm going to prepare for that. I'm just going to sit down, get ready, aram se, I'm going to eat. So 15 minutes goes just in preparing. Then I wash my hand, the food comes in front of me. Now I'm doing gabshab. Another 15 minutes go, I haven't even eaten yet. Once the food is in front of me, I have my phone open. I have YouTube, I have Facebook, I have Twitter, I'm going through the news, I'm reading the messages, and the bite is still in my hand. It's gone from being hot to being cold, it's in my hand, and I'm going like this. And I'm just scrolling like a zombie. Then after 45 minutes, I'm finally done with my food. I wash my hand and I just throw the plate over there and I sit down. Now I have to digest the food. How much time goes to waste? If we tell ourselves we're busy, we're literally fooling ourselves. SubhanAllah, we have so much time in the day. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, al-faragh. Your free time is a blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that honestly you don't understand. This is a blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we truly do not understand. What does that mean? The Sahaba radiallahu anhum were busy as well. They had work, they had family, they had so much. Umar radiallahu anhu, in fact, he was so busy. Before I tell you this, I want to ask you something. Let's say, for instance, somebody tells you that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is going to be here for Ramadan. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam is going to be here for Ramadan. What would you do? I would be doing i'tikaf in the masjid day in, day out. I don't care if I get fired from my job. I don't care if I don't eat. I'm going to be in the masjid 24/7. In the time of the Sahaba, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was practically in the masjid all day, but some of the Sahaba, they had responsibilities. So they couldn't spend 24/7 in the masjid. They had Umar radiallahu anhu, he would spend one day in the masjid, and the second day he would tell his friend stay in the masjid. And he would say to his friend that when you come to the masjid, take notes and share your notes with me at nighttime. And then when I come to the masjid the next day, I'm going to take notes and I'm going to share those notes with you. In this example, Umar radiallahu anhu was too busy to come every day, but he figured out a way to benefit from this. Even though he's busy, he found a way around it. A lot of times we say we're busy, but we spend so much time. I'll give you an example. Many of us, we drive to work. We drive to work. How long is our work? Drive, commute, 20 minutes, let's say. For some of us, 15, 20, 25 minutes. We're driving to work. Amount of time I have over there, I could be listening to Quran. I could be listening to a bayan. I could be listening to a lecture. I come back home, instead of sitting down and watching sports, reading the news, doing all of this waste of time, I could do something beneficial. You know, my teacher, he used to say, the laziest person is not the person who doesn't do khidmah of other people. The laziest person is the person who can't do khidmah of himself. The laziest person is not the one who doesn't do khidmah of other people. The laziest person is I can't do khidmah of myself. What do I mean by that? I'm very unhealthy, and the doctor is telling me, you know what, every day you should walk for 15 minutes, 20 minutes. I say, no, I'm too busy. I can't do khidmah of myself, then there's nobody in the world I'm going to do khidmah of. If we're actually busy, the best way to do this, honestly, take a pen and paper, write down your schedule. I tell my students to do this every single day. Take a pen and paper. Okay, I woke up 6 o'clock for Fajr Salah. 6 o'clock to 6:30, I prayed Salah. I stayed, I read Quran. 6:30 to 8 o'clock, I sit down and I have breakfast. 8 o'clock, I go for work. I come back from work at 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock to 10 o'clock, now I'm writing down what I'm doing. You will realize how much time goes to waste. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he says so beautifully, حَاسِبُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ قَبْلَ أَن تُحَاسَبُوا. Make account of yourself before Allah is going to take account of you. On the day of judgment, whether you like it or not, your diary is going to be shown. At 8:37 and 20 seconds, you were sitting in the masjid listening to a lecture. Whether I have notes or not, those notes are always going to be over there. So in summary, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he tells us, نِعْمَتَانْ مَغْبُونٌ فِيهِمَا كَثِيرٌ مِنَ النَّاسِ. There are blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but two blessings in particular, I am completely jahil of them. What are they? Number one, as-sihha, my health. And health is relative. For some people, they may have some back pain or knee pain, but they can still function. Other people, they may have some diabetes problem, but they can still function. People, when we're talking about health issues, we're talking about debilitating issues, where I'm stuck on a bed and I cannot move. That's something very important for us to bear in mind. And number two, al-faragh, my free time. I should be understanding the free time that we have. You know, I'm going to end with one statement. They say, if you want to appreciate the value of a year, ask that person who failed a grade. They're supposed to go to 10th grade. They failed, now they have to do 10th grade again. They understand, oh, how valuable 1 year is. If you want to understand the value of a day, ask that person who earns their money every single day to day, they earn their money, but they're sick and they can't earn that day. They'll understand the value of a day. If you want to understand the value of a minute, ask that person who came to the train and the train had already left. They're trying to get to work at time. They come to the train left a minute ago, I completely missed it. If you want to understand the value of a second, ask that marathon runner who got silver and didn't get gold, because the first person got in that first second, he got in the second second. Every second is valuable if you're able to value and think about it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to appreciate our health. And the health that Allah has given us, on the day of judgment, we're going to be asked about it. That what did you do with your health? When you were strong, when you were able to walk, when you had all of this ability, did you invest it or not? Or did you completely spend all of your time? And now that you're old and you're saying, oh, my money is to this, a person's on his deathbed and he's going to say, everything is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. At that time, it doesn't hold the value. On the day of judgment, one of the people who's going to get the shade of Allah is shabun nasha'a fi ibadatillah. I'm young and I spend my time in the masjid. Allah appreciates that twice the amount of somebody who's older and spends the time in the masjid. Let's say I'm like 15 years old. Let's say I'm 20 years old and I come to the masjid. That salah is more valuable than people who are older. Not because Allah is decreasing the reward of a people. Allah is giving that person more reward because he can do other things. So as-sihha, my health. Al-faragh, my free time. I'm going to end on this, which is very interesting. Sihha is usually for younger people and faragh is usually for older people. Sihha is for younger people and faragh is for older people. Every time I talk about this hadith, A lot of people are a little older, they'll say, this doesn't apply to me. This hadith is for, all the young folk, the little jawan people. No, the hadith of siha, when you're young, you have siha, but you're very busy. Faragh, when you're older, you have more free time. You utilize that free time. Siha when you're young, faragh when you're older. We have them both at different times, but try to invest in this. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us all, allow us to practice on this hadith. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Subhanallah wa bihamdi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Jazakumullahu khairan wa assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.